My name is Grater. I am from New Zealand. I'm a singer-songwriter. I play folk music, and I have just released my third album in New Zealand. It's called While I'm Awake, I'm at War. It's my third album, but I also have 2 books out. The second book is just about to come out. So I write songs and I write stories. So a few years ago, I did a tour around New Zealand. I played in lots of small places and the big places. And I collected recipes from everyone, and I wrote a book. And I wrote the book called The Cookbook Tour, Travels in New Zealand, Food and Music. So that came out a few years ago now. And then I decided that I wanted to do the same thing all over the world. So 2 years ago I did this tour around Europe. I went through 7 countries and I collected recipes from everyone that I met. So sometimes the audience members, when I was in Italy, when I was playing my music, the audience members would write recipes on napkins and pieces of paper. And I took them all home with me and created a book. So that one will be the Cookbook Tour Europe. This is my second time in Italy. My first trip was 2 years ago when I did the Cookbook Tour. At that time I went through 7 countries in 2 months. But this time I will only play in France and Italy because they were my favourite places. I plan to be back here in spring, so next April and May I'll be back here. There are a lot of different scenes in New Zealand, and there's a very strong underground scene. It's a very independent country, so because it's a small audience, a lot of people release their own music and do everything themselves. So I have a record label that I started. It's called Maiden Records, and I started it to release my own music, but after a while I started to put out other people's music as well. My label is it's a small indie label. I've released bands that are mostly country and folk and indie folk, but mostly New Zealanders, actually only New Zealanders so far, but I'm looking to release some international music in New Zealand, so people can send me their music if they want to. I'm happy to hear it. When I was a child, my father taught me to play guitar, and he was interested in Bob Dylan and Cat Stevens and folk artists from the 60s. So the songs he taught me were those artists and those songs. But as I got older, when I was a teenager, I wanted to make grunge music. But then as I got older again, I started to listen to folk music again, and I began to listen to Mazzy Star and Cat Power and PJ Harvey and Bob Dylan again and people like that, so that's now what I listen to mostly. Every time people make music, it's a reflection of where they're from and what their experience is. And so obviously my music is related to New Zealand. But I think it's also kind of an international sound. It's influenced by many places and many different artists from around the world. So it's a little New Zealand and a little international as well.